And finally, on to Lee.
Yeah, thank you. Will it punish the poor? I think it'll probably affect all of us, to be honest with you, short term and long term. That's my honest opinion. But I've been knocking doors and I've been a political activist for the past 20 years for both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. And I can honestly say, in all that time, this never comes up on the doorstep at any stage. People, it's not at the top of their agenda. But if you ask them the honest question, is what government's trying to achieve the right thing, then 90% of people will say, yeah, it is the right thing. What they do actually disagree on is how we pay for it, who should pay for it, and how we should pay for it. That's what people disagree on. And we should be proud of this country, our achievements over the past 30, 40 years. I think in the last 11 years, we've reduced carbon emissions in this country about 28%. That's probably the highest of any G7 country. And we never really shout about that, and we should. We should be incredibly proud. And we've got the lowest emission rate in this country now since the Victorian times. I mean, I remember a time 30, 40, 50 years ago, going to school, all the smoke coming out the chimneys. We had coal fires in Ashfield. All the factories were run on coal heating, the schools, the hospitals, all public buildings were putting all sorts of carbon into the atmosphere. We stopped all that, but we never talk about that, do we? We should be incredibly proud of what we've achieved. And the cost of this, it continues to grow. We never know, right throughout time, all big projects, whether you're going back 300 or 400 years building canals and bridges, to the Channel Tunnel, to railways, every single project we do, the cost, it spirals out of control. So nobody can honestly can honestly say now how much it's going to cost. And that really concerns me. Who pays for it? Does rich people pay for it? Do poor people pay for it? It's all right for people like me. I'm on a good salary. I've got a nice big house, I've got 2 cars. It won't really bother me, will it? I can afford to pay a bit more. I probably will pay a bit more. But, I've been that person in Ashfield. I've been on minimum wage. I've been a single parent. And let me tell you, the difference of 5, 10, 20 quid a week makes a big difference to people in my constituency. So when people say to me, it won't affect the poor, I've been that poor person, so come and have a conversation with me. Boilers. Electric cars, who's going to pay for them? That's a big worry. I've already got constituents now telling me about electric cars. Who's going to pay for the electric car? I've looked into buying an electric car. I can't afford one, and I get a decent wage. The price at the moment is astronomical. And when you're not dictating to a country such, but when you're telling people in your country you must go on this journey, which actually I agree with the journey, it's just the way we do it. But when you're telling people that your money, because ultimately everybody's going to pay for it, I'm looking at other things in this country which the taxpayer are already paying for. I'm looking at, for example, HS2, over 100 billion quid. People are pretty fed up with that at the moment. That's a big problem in my patch. It's all pain, no gain. It whizzes by at 120 mile an hour. You can never get on it. You've got to travel 20 or 30 mile to get on HS2. And you know what? The vast majority of people in my constituency never go to London. I'm one of the few that get on that train to come to London every week. Foreign aid. Big problem. That comes up on the doorstep. Foreign aid, 10 billion, I think it is now. People, in Ashfield, I know it's like in your constituencies, they say to me, charity begins at home. There's another 10 billion you could put towards this green journey. NHS, what a waste of money that is in certain departments. We're seeing now we're paying managers 250 grand a year. Absolutely outrageous. We're paying diversity officers 70, 80 grand a year. Absolutely criminal. And we're asking people to put their hand in the pocket to pay more. Let's sort the NHS out. Our asylum system, that's broken. That's costing us hundreds of millions of pounds, if not billions of pounds. We need to put that right. Fortunately, we are getting that right. And my biggest problem at the moment, my big bugbear, is the BBC. We've got a licence fee, 160 quid a week. We're absolutely robbing people, robbing pensioners, the over 75s, to pay this fee, which is actually, for me, the BBC is the official opposition in this country. They're the one organisation that opposes government. We need to sort that out, scrap the BBC, and when you've gone through all these, this is just a waste of money, all these things that I think, well, my residents certainly think this, and at the end of the day, I'm here to represent my residents. Save the money on all these projects, and then come back with your begging bowl and say, you know what, we need a bit of money off you, and then it might be a bit more acceptable. But we have to have an honest conversation about our energy policy in this country, because it's not always been great under both governments. We need to have an honest conversation about fracking. Now, we all want to walk to that switch on or that kettle in the morning and put a kettle on and have a cup of tea. Most people aren't actually bothered where that energy comes from, let's be honest. You just want your cup of tea, you want to put your light on, you want to have a shower, have a bath and go to work. That's what we like. And we're importing lots of gas. It's coming through a pipeline from, I think, Scandinavia. but we're still using gas, and we've got gas in this country underground. So we need to have an honest conversation. Can we frack it safely? Can we frack it cheaply? If we can, why are we transitioning over the next 20, 30, 40 years? Why aren't we using that gas? We've got geothermal energy which we can use, which is mine water. About 25% of this country sits on top of coal mines. I'm an ex-coal miner, so I know a little bit about it, where we can pump warm water out of mine workings into an heat exchange and use that as district heating. That can then go back into the mine and it comes back up. That lasts forever. That's a relatively cheap way of heating a whole community. You can do factories, you can do hospitals, you can do all housing estates. Whitehaven Colliery in Cumbria. This is a coal mine. It's been in the news for ages. This coal mine, for some reason, people in this country are reluctant to accept that this coal mine will actually mine metallurgical coal, which is coal that goes to steelworks. It could go to British Steel. British Steel and other cement factories are currently importing about 3 million tonnes of this coal a year from places like Russia, America and China. And we've got it sat underneath us in the northwest. It's an absolute scandal. We could mine this coal cheaply. It could be safely, it could be more carbon friendly on our doorstep and send it to places in the UK to make British steel, which, you know, the ironic part about the steel, we can use that to make wind farms. It's absolutely nuts. Why aren't we doing this? And I hope this coal mine does open and we can show a little bit of sense in this country, because I think we're far too keen to try and race to the top and try and be the world leaders. Nothing wrong with being world leaders, because eventually we will make, you know, we'll get it back. But let's have some common sense. You know, let's put our own country first. Let's not penalise the poor, because ultimately the people in Ashfield, where I represent, they're not that well off. You know, the living wage, the minimum wage, they're not wealthy. We can still buy a house in Ashfield for 80 and 90 grand. And it's all right for people in this room and on this bench and in that building there dictating to my residents that you'll be able to afford it. And quite frankly, I say no, they can't afford it. You know, it's your job as government and our job as politicians to come up with a much better idea than putting fuel bills up. That's the easy way out, putting fuel bills up. It's the easy way, putting levies on. Be a bit more creative, come back with a better package, and then I'll agree to it. And that's me done.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that, Lee. I didn't necessarily